Welcome back. Rob Port in for Jay Thomas. 701-293-9000. You want to join the program? 888-970-9329 is the toll-free number. You can tweet me at Rob Port. You can also email talk@wday.com. Controversy earlier this week, Ash Wednesday, saw the... First, a little bit of background. Before every floor session, there is an invocation given by a spiritual leader. All sorts of spiritual leaders, Jewish leaders, Native American leaders, Christian leaders, a variety of religious leaders. On Wednesday, which was coincided as Ash Wednesday for Christians, there was a gentleman from the Bismarck Muslim Community Center. He's a doctor in Bismarck, a urologist actually. His name was Dr. Nadim Kolilat. He was supposed to have given an invocation to the State House chamber. He ended up not giving the invocation because there were some people who objected to that invocation happening on Ash Wednesday. Now, as a result, there was controversy over that. And as a result, the Council on American Islamic Relations is calling on North Dakota Republicans to apologize. Here to discuss this with me is Jailani Hussein, who is the executive director of the the Minnesota chapter of CAIR, and Representative Dwight Kiefert of District 24, who is one of the members of the State House who objected to the invocation. Representative Kiefert, Jailani, welcome, and thank you for your time.
Thanks for having us, Rob.
Representative Kiefert, first of all, tell me what happened in your own words.
Okay, first off, there was no protest about this at all. This thing has gotten way out of whack. What happened is that we noticed that on the calendar, which was Ash Wednesday, that they had, somebody that wasn't a Christian scheduled for the prayer. And we just asked the question, wouldn't it be better to have a Christian, give the invocation on a Christian holiday? That's what all that was done. We just asked a simple question. And then probably an oversight on their booking, they looked at that and said, oh, yeah, they didn't realize it. And so then they thought it would probably be a good idea, to have, a Christian on a Christian holiday. I mean, there was no formal protest. This thing's gotten way out of control. It was just a question that I asked. And then some of the other representatives, thought that would probably be a good idea, too, to have, a Christian on a holiday. So that's what happened. But this thing's gotten, like I said, way out of proportion.
Jailani, you're calling on Republicans to apologize. Explain to me your position.
Well, first, I want to welcome the apology on Facebook. I think I just saw that come in not long ago from the district, 24 Republicans, and so I think it's important to recognize the climate that we're in today, and the messages that we saw about why I think that we don't believe in the same God, and I think these are the type of rhetoric that Islamophobes across the United States have used. And I'm not saying that the representatives are Islamophobes or anything like that, but these are the type of sentiments and stigma that has been carried across the nation. And we saw some really tragic incident in North Carolina. And so the Muslim community has been really sensitive about the lack of really religious tolerance. And so I think it's important to recognize that, individuals who are in power have really a big voice in the community. And it's important for them to recognize that their statements, whether they are with or other, how they are perceived. And, I believe that this is not the way we welcome each other, and I recognize maybe there's the schedule issue here, but I think it's beyond that, and talking about ISIS and the Christian, what happened, and what Muslims have condemned and continue to condemn the horrible attacks by these groups. But but the president yesterday reminded all of us that, this is not a war against Islam. And this is the type of rhetoric that we need in our communities, that if we have to come together. And by the way, I'm in Minnesota, but I've lived in North Dakota. I'm a graduate of NDSU. I've had great experience living in Fargo, North Dakota area, and so it was a tremendously surprise to me that the leadership would, in this case, not allow an individual, a Muslim who is a hardworking part of the society, a taxpayer, someone who have the same right as all the other citizens of North Dakota to open and in a prayer that I think is brings us together, reminds that we're one community, one human family here, and while we have difference of religions, I think we have to recognize that there's a lot of similarities. So, I welcome the apology, but I think it's important for the representative to understand the climate that we live in today, and how we really need to come together. And by the way, North Dakota, I know, has had ups and downs with the population of Muslims, but it's also recorded to have some of the early Muslims there. So, and that's something I think North Dakota should be proud about, the fact that Muslims have been there since the early 1900s, and so I think we just need to be reminded of the realities that's happening today, and our leaders need to be very careful in the statements that they say, and not to be statements of bigotry in any way.
701-293-9000, 888-970-9329. Jelani, I want to follow up with you, or Jaylani. Yeah. I'm sorry if I'm getting your name right. I am.
No, that's it.
Jaylani. I wanted to I wanted to ask you, because you referenced what happened in North Carolina, of course, tragic mm-hmm. murder there.
Yes.
One thing that people are also looking at is what is happening in the Middle East, where you have Christians being slaughtered. There's clearly a problem with Islamic extremism. Now, I'm not trying to brand everybody, but there's clearly an association of Islam with, or strains of Islam anyway, with terrorism. Is it not fair when you're saying that we're living in this climate, and you reference North Carolina as an example? Is it not fair then for Christians or non-Muslims to reference a lot of the violence that is happening at the hands of Muslims, some of it directed directly towards Christian, in saying that this is why we feel some tension? Is that not fair?
I think we have to first ask I think the first most important thing is to recognize that there's nothing Islamic about these terrorist organizations. There's nothing in Islam that condones their action. And
they're very.
They kill more Muslims than anyone else. Muslims are the first ones to be attacked by these organizations. So I think I understand. I think we here in America need to recognize that, we need to know a little bit more about Islam to recognize that these people are not representing any faith. There's Boko Haram killed 2,000 Muslims. We haven't even heard about it. So we have to recognize that these organizations have no faith. They cloak themselves in a religion because they know that there is so much ignorance about Islam in the rest of the world. But the reality is that these individuals do not protect the sanctity of life, and there is no religion that can justify their work. And these are terrorists at their core. And so I think that is where we need to get the narrative corrected. There is nothing Islamic about this. They construe, these, and you have to recognize this is political conflict that are happening. This is not a peacetime groups they're coming out of this chaos. They're offering people a solution, but this solution, it has nothing to do with Islam, nothing to do with the faith that.
I'm having a hard time, Jaylani, because you keep saying it has nothing to do with Islam, and Reverend Kiefert, we'll get to you here again in a moment. But you keep saying it has nothing to do with Islam, but yet they are very. And I was just reading an excellent article in the Atlantic about this. They are very ISIS as an example are very, very careful in holding true to the original teaching of the Quran. Now, I know that Christians do not they do not advance their faith in the way that it was originally practiced however many thousand years ago. But ISIS a lot. I mean, they are referencing very specific Quranic texts and Quranic tracts to justify what they are doing. To say that it has nothing to do with Islam, I feel like you're not being entirely forthright.
I think, Rob, you're touching on the point that I'm trying to explain. Islam is a religion that is complete. It's a complete religion, and unfortunately, these organizations like ISIS recognize that whatever they cut and paste verses from the Quran to meet their agenda, to meet their political gain, their political ideology. We have to recognize that in Islam itself is a religion that 1.7 or nearly a quarter of the world's population believe in. And this religion does not condone their acts. They recognize the value of cloaking themselves with the religion, because that's the identity of this Muslim population. So what we need in America, and this is something that I'm urging the representative and others who are listening today, go to your nearest library, pick up a copy of the Quran, pick up a copy of, talk to a Muslim in Fargo, and let's have a dialogue and discussion about what really Islam is and what the Muslims who live in this country and live all over the world believe in. We wake up every single day. We pray 5 times a day. We talk about peace. I mean, the first time a Muslim meets another Muslim or any other person, the first thing that comes out of their mouth is, "May there be peace upon you." And that's not new. That's what Christians say. That's what Jews say. I think in the world that we live in today, when there's so many conflicts that are happening around the world, conflicts are educating people about Islam. And I think that is where we are going wrong. We need to have real discussions about Islam. Go to the theologians. I mean, go to anybody, any of the Christian priests and ask them, are there people who are taking religion in to do evil? Yes. Historically, we've always had that. And that's how they brand themselves. We have to uncloak them and show the world that these people do not represent the faith. They represent the evil in the world that needs to be get rid of.
Let me jump in here. We got to go to a break. Jaylani, Representative Kiefert, hold. If you folks can hold on, I got to take a break. We're going to come back. More your call 701-293-9000 888-970-9329. You can email talk@wday.com if you want to jump in and get your points in. You can also tweet me at Rob Port. We'll be back after this. Don't go away. Continuing our discussion of controversy over an Islamic leader delivering an invocation to the North Dakota State House, or was supposed to. It ended up not happening. He delivered an invocation to the state Senate. We actually have audio of the invocation that was delivered to the state Senate. Let's play that just to give some context of what this gentleman was going to say. Kyle, we got that audio. Let's roll it.
Senate will please come to order. Senate will be on the first order of business, prayer by the chaplain and pledge of allegiance. Chaplain for the day is Dr. Nadim Kolelat of the Bismarck Muslim Community Center.
Peace be upon you. In the name of God, the most merciful, the most benefactor, praise be to God, the cherisher and sustainer of the worlds, most gracious, most merciful, Master of the day of judgment. You alone we worship, and you alone we ask for help. Show us the straight way, the way of those on whom you have bestowed your grace, not the way of those who earned your anger, nor those who went astray. O God, guide us with those whom you have guided, and preserve us with those whom you have preserved. Take us to your care with those whom you have taken to your care. Bless us in what you have given us. Protect us from the evil you have ordained. Surely you command and are not commanded. And none whom you have befriended shall be humiliated, and none whom you have taken as an enemy shall taste glory. You are blessed, our Lord, and exalted.
Senator Larson.
All right, so that's the audio. That's what was said, and callers. We got callers stacking up. I got emails to get to, 701-293-9000, 888-970-9329, or email talk@wday.com. Representative Kiefert, what was so bad about that invocation? Was there anything wrong with that in your eyes?
No, there was nothing wrong with it, Rob, but I got to point out again is there was no protest, there was no objection. It was just a simple question asked that they noticed that it was Ash Wednesday, and wouldn't it be better to have, a Christian pastor for the celebration of Ash Wednesday? That's all that was said. Just a simple question. And I never realized that this could be offensive to somebody asking a question. If that offended somebody, I guess I'll say I apologize. But there was no offense intended. It was just a question if they realized what day it was when they scheduled this.
Do you now? What part of what first brought this to people's attention was postings on the District 24 Republicans Facebook page by I think what we now know are some local party activists. And some of them, because you're saying it was specifically about that this was happening on Ash Wednesday, but some of the comments and some of the postings on there saying that this is the worst form of political correctness. One of them saying, if I went to a Muslim country, we would not expect them to open their state with a Christian prayer. The U.S. has a Christian foundation. A lot of them not just objecting to the idea that this was happening on Ash Wednesday, but seeming to object to this just as a concept, the idea that an Islamic leader would deliver an invocation to the State House. Do you agree with those comments? How do those comments come to be there?
Well, like you said earlier, it was a volunteer that he posted some comments and he asked a question of what people think. And I think what he was trying to do is have an open discussion about it to see what other people's opinions on. But I'm out here in Bismarck. I don't have time to, monitor the Facebook page. So we have volunteers that help out with things. So we don't proofread everything they say, and if they said something that offended somebody, we issued an apology on the website there. But like I say, we didn't, screen everything and tell them what to do or anything. So, and I'm sure they didn't intend to offend anybody either. But it just took off, and it got out of control for them, and they were trying to deal with the questions and responses, and it just got way out of hand.
Let's get to some calls here. Kevin from West Fargo, you're up first. What's on your mind?
I'm getting feedback, but the main thing was your last Muslim leader. Who was he?
I'm sorry. Who are you addressing that to? I don't understand the question.
To you, I'm asking you a question. Who was your last Muslim leader or the person there?
Oh, the guest is Jailani Hussein. He's the executive director of the Minnesota chapter of CAIR.
And so, was he at the Senate?
He was not. Jailani, I think you can answer that. No, he was not in. He lives in Minnesota.
Okay. No, I feel he was just inappropriate.
How so?
But
How so? How was he inappropriate?
In that he didn't know what was going on in North Dakota. The prayer was great. Well, I don't want to say great. It was good. But, I mean, the prayer was okay. And he was just throwing stuff out there that just made no sense.
Well, give us an example. I got to get to other callers here, but give us an example, Kevin, of what you objected to, and we'll let Jailani respond.
Let's say about what's going on in Iraq.
You felt like he was too dismissive of it?
Yes.
Okay, Kevin, Jailani, why don't you respond to that? Kevin, thanks for the call. Jailani, your thoughts. He felt too dismissive of what's going on in Iraq with ISIS. I think a lot of people, a lot of Americans sometimes feel scared. Sometimes it feels like there's Muslims among us, and it's hard for us on the outside to discern who's an extremist and who isn't.
I think we have been bombarded with the 24-hour cycle news of what's happening in these countries, and unfortunately, you're right. Majority of the people, maybe in North Dakota, haven't had a chance to actually talk to a Muslim and learn about Islam, so fear exists. Muslims are afraid themselves. As I mentioned earlier, ISIS is killing Muslims every single day. Thousands upon thousands of people have been killed. In Syria, Millions have been displaced. So Muslims are the brunt of this terrorist attacks by these terrorists, whether it's Boko Haram or ISIS or whoever they are.
Okay.
So Muslims are the ones who are also targeted in this. And I think that's where we need, as a community, come together and to recognize that the threat that they have to all of us, not just one group or the other that these groups are attacking. I mean, I'm speaking to you right now, and I'm a threat to all of them, these terrorist groups. So we need to come together, and we need to go and recognize that our religions call us to peace, as you heard the prayer that everybody had no problem with, and okay. And by the way, I mean, I like I mentioned to you, I'm even though I live in Minnesota, I've lived in North Dakota, and this issue was an issue that I think has both local and national attention. But I think the solutions are not national. They're not going to be able to solve it for Minnesota. And I appreciate the representative, his apology and recognizing that this is not supposed to take on beyond that. But I think at the same time we need our leaders to recognize that. And what the president said yesterday, I think, was profound. And we need that type of dialogue between communities so that.
I gotta move on some of these calls. I understand your point. Let's get to Pamela from Minneapolis next. Then we got to take a break. Pamela, what's on your mind?
Oh, hi. Thank you so much. I just wanted to make the point that your guest is wrong in saying that there's nothing Islamic about Islamic fundamentalists. So my point is that the Islamists are representing their version of Islam. But it's very much about Islam, just like right here in Minneapolis in the Somali community. There are many young Muslims who purport to be Muslim who have become radicalized. So I think it's important for your guest to speak the truth about this. Now, I also think it's true that most Muslims don't represent, this group.
Yeah.
But we do need to speak the truth. So that was my point, and I'd love to hear what he has to say.
Pamela, thank you for the call. Gentlemen, I gotta take a break. Jaylani, can you hold through the break, and I'll let you answer after, because I got to take Representative Kiefert. I know you're a busy guy. You're down there at the session. Can you hold through to the next break?
I'll be glad to hold it.
All right, sure. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time. Appreciate it. Gonna take to a break. Sarah, Simone from Fargo, hold on. We'll get you on the program. 701-293-9000, 888-970-9329. Email talk@wday.com. We'll be right back. Don't go away. With Islam, I don't know, man. I hear you say that, and it doesn't sit right with me. What your response?
So, Rob, let me explain. I've lived here for a long time. I was pretty much raised here in Minnesota and North Dakota, at least. I've met a lot of people, and the first question sometimes I ask about, in trainings and talking to people about educating people about Islam is, do you know the difference between Islam and Muslims? And majority of the people, maybe a large percentage of the people who are listening today, may not know the difference. Islam is the religion. It's a religion that we believe is a continuation of the Abrahamic faith, similar to Christianity and Judaism. And Muslims are those who practice Islam. So when we talk about where things are going wrong, there are bad Muslims, just as if there are bad Christians. But I think the religion of Islam, and then in the Quran and the traditions of the Prophet, these are the sources that we use. And these sources are people can cut and paste on both sides of the aisle.
Sure, and I understand the distinction,
and as well as those who spread fear through Islamophobia. So,
and I
have people who will cut and paste to make their own agenda and explain the religion to their own views, but that does not mean the religion itself. And those who follow it see it the same way as those few who. I understand the distinction. I understand the distinction you're trying to make, and I think any religious or political movement you could say has extremists in it. That being said, we have people who are cutting other people's heads off, waving Qurans in the air, screaming Allahu Akbar, and you're telling me that has nothing to do with Islam. What I'm telling you is, and Rob, it seems like you're also still believing in the same narrative as everybody else.
Well, no, I don't think it's representative of all Muslims.
There's a quarter of our society is Muslim, 1.7 billion, vast majority, almost all of them, are not engaged in any conflict. They're not carrying the Quran, yelling words out, and stuff like that. What you see is these conflict and these terrorists who are killing the same people who they would say they're not Muslims. So when those people are the ones who you identify and to be Muslims, and to identify them to be the ones who are carrying the banner of Islam, and who are the ones who are the authority to explain what Islam is, I think that's where we get into trouble. I think we have to recognize that these individuals and these organizations have no faith. They use faith for their own gains, but there is nothing.
Okay, but I think it's
well,
hold on. Okay, well, we got to get to the callers too. Go ahead.
Yep. Okay. So, for example, there's a verse in the Quran that says, if you save a life, it says if you've saved mankind, and if you take a life, it's if you've taken mankind, and it's a very profound verse in the Quran, and it's very simple. Everybody can understand that. And one of the interesting thing about this verse is, and most people don't know, is when you take a life, you don't just take that person, but you also take the lineage and the generations that would have been that came from that life.
Okay.
So Islam has always a religion that is just like Christianity, just like Judaism, is a religion about connecting the person to their Creator, and that type of bloodshed and all of these things are happening in the world today. And now we're learning Islam through that window. I think that is where the problem exists. One of the most interesting things, and most people will be mind-boggled, the first country to recognize the United States was a Muslim country.
Okay.
The first country that ever recognized the United States of America, when the United States of America.
Sure, but I think Jaylani, I think we're way off the map here. What you said was it has nothing to do with Islam. I think people are having a hard time buying that. I tell you what, though, I gotta take just a quick break. We'll get back to the callers here in a moment. Our Jeff Nelson from the newsroom is on hold. We got breaking news of a rollover. Let's go to him. We'll be right back.
Hello.
Yes, Sarah, you're on.
Actually, District 24.
Oh, District 24. I'm sorry. What did I say? Yeah. District 42? District 24. Yeah. I'm being dyslexic. What's up?
2 points. My first, a thank you to the gentleman you've been speaking to, because what he's saying should make sense to really anybody. What he's saying is clear and concise and providing education to what appears to be lots of people who need it. My second point, and my most important point, is to Representative Kiefert. The spin seems to be that this is something that blew out of control and out of proportion because of a simple, innocent question about someone praying on Ash Wednesday. The issue came about when his constituents saw on the official public Republican District 24 Facebook page that they were actually trying to get people to protest this prayer. It didn't say anything about Ash Wednesday. It said nothing about that. In fact, what it talked about was how we should not have a Muslim in there praying, because we have been at war with these people since 9/11. That's bad enough. Then when someone tried to respond saying, hey, you're judging one person based on the actions of all of these other people, again, the response by the North Dakota District 24 Republicans, this wasn't some individual person, this was under their heading. The response was, when their Quran says to kill the infidels, how do you separate them? Now, I don't know about you, but I find that completely offensive. And several people in the district realized this is their Facebook page. This is what they are putting out there. And if they're urging their constituents and people who subscribe to that kind of rhetoric to call the legislature and say, hey, we don't want a Muslim there, his other constituents, he doesn't just represent those people. He represents everybody in his district. And so people got upset that was what they were urging people to do. That was the official. It wasn't like just some lone wolf out there making these comments. That was the official Facebook public page. And so when you have people like that urging that kind of hatred and bigotry, other constituents who don't believe or subscribe to that don't want to be represented in that way.
All right, Sarah, let me give Representative Kiefert a chance to answer.
That's the problem. This is not an innocent question
about
Ash Wednesday.
Let me.
This is the Facebook.
Okay, let me give Representative Kiefert a chance to answer. Your response to that.
Well, all I can say is that we issued an apology on the webpage, but we have several people that can post on there, and we'll have to set some guidelines on what's said on there and have somebody else look at it before they post it. But I mean, we have volunteers helping with various things, and we can't, control what they say or do. I'm busy out here at Bismarck trying to, keep up with everything.
Are those the volunteers you want posting? Are those? I mean, if that's the rhetoric that they're out there promoting, that's the page that shows your ideas. That's the page where you communicate your ideas.
Yeah, Sarah, let's let Representative Kiefert go ahead.
Okay, I think what they were trying to do, I don't know if they were trying to inflict injury or not, but I think what they wanted to do was have a discussion about it. And I think they just blew up and they got way out of control from them. They just didn't know how to handle it. But nobody sanctioned that or approved it, and I think they were kind of caught off guard too. So, like I said, I apologize, and the District 24 has issued an apology, and we'll keep better track of what's going on, because I like to post on there and tell them what's happening with the bills and whatnot, and keep them up to date. But we'll just have to, be a little more careful what people say and do on there.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Do that, and I'll be done, and I'll get off and let everybody else go. My comment back to that is, again, it's sort of being represented as though, well, this one lone person or this and that somehow then it came back on them and they didn't know how to respond. The responses were very easy to understand. No one posting as a District 24 Republican Party seemed thrown by anything anybody suggested to them. They had very thorough responses that are now easily readable. You can go and read the responses. They weren't thrown. It's as though now they're the victim. They didn't know how to respond. They knew exactly how to respond. They started the conversation.
Sarah,
and the response speaks for themselves.
Sarah, thanks for the call. Representative Kiefert, let me just condense that into one question. I'll let you respond, Representative Kiefert. Does it bother you that the sentiment from some of the constituents in your district, some of the District 24 Republicans apparently, was that we shouldn't have a Muslim addressing the legislature? Does that bother you?
Well, yeah, because, we're all for free speech and free religion. And like I say, this whole thing started because I asked a question. How would I have known by asking a question that this would have blown up into this situation? Who could imagine that? I got an invite from Alan Combs to come on his show over a question now that I asked. Who would have dreamed it? And nobody saw this coming. And I think when the people started the discussion, they really didn't have any idea how it was going to blow up either. How could they? And so we're not trying to offend anybody. And my original question on the floor was just, did you know that was Ash Wednesday? Wouldn't it be better to have a Christian pray on a Christian holiday? And I didn't intend to offend anybody. I just thought that I just threw the question out there thinking that would be the proper thing to do, and I think some others thought it was proper too, and then it was acted upon. But, nobody intended to inflict an offense on anyone. That wasn't our intention at all. And like I said, we issued an apology on the Facebook page, and we'll be careful about what's on there from now on, I'm sure. But nobody saw this thing coming.
All right, Representative Kiefert, thank you for that answer. I want to get through the last couple of callers. Sharon from Jamestown, you're on next. We only got a couple minutes left, so let's keep it quick.
Well, although I appreciate Jaylani's articulate way of speaking about Islam, and I also appreciate Mr. Kiefert's apology, it is still extremely insensitive of Jaylani and the CAIR organization to be expecting and asking for an apology for what happened. It was not only just Ash Wednesday, but just 3 days after our Christian brothers died. And the wound from that was very, very fresh. And it was, terribly insensitive and completely dismissive of the mourning process happening within our Christian community right now.
Sharon, thanks for that. Jaylani, real quick, your response.
I think this issue, this discussion, we need to move forward. I recognize the 2 points that were just mentioned. I just want to make sure that we all recognize that there is a lot of room for us to talk. And if we're going to be talking this way, this is not how we build relationships and mutual understandings of each other. And there's room. And I reach out to my fellow North Dakotans and others, and I hope we can have the dialogue be about how we learn more about each other, so that people recognize that, Muslims, the gentleman the doctor who is working in his Bismarck, who's a hardworking American, and wanted to take part in what other faith leaders have done, to be told that, we don't want you. And I think there is. I think this is the time we need to come together.
I agree,
and not be divisive.
I think we need to keep talking. Last caller, Dan from Valley City. You're on. What's up?
Yeah, Rob. That's just my opinion, but I've been starting to research the issue with the Muslim or the Islamic faith and the Muslims. I'm a Christian myself, and I've read the Bible many times, but the best way to understand is to start reading the Quran and start doing some studying. And what I've found is that we haven't been fighting since 2011. We've been fighting since biblical times. The idea of praying in front of the legislature is part of the Islamic plan, as was building their mosque on the Temple of the Mount, and wanting to build their mosque near the site of 9/11.
Part of what plan? What do you think you think they're going to take over the legislature by giving it? We have Jews, we have Native Americans, we have Christians, all sorts of people deliver the invocation. What's wrong with that?
You have to understand that when Muslims come to the United States, they don't come here for the land of opportunity. They come here to take over.
No, I don't believe you, Dan. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Representative Kiefert, Jelani, thanks for the time. Appreciate it. We're at the end of the hour. Sorry for that, Dan. I tell you what, Dan, you want to call back in next segment? Go ahead. I'm Rob Port in for Jay Thomas. We'll be back next hour right after this. Don't go away.